Good morning, brethren. We're coming together on this study for a report on the new code report. We're coming at an unusual time. It's 10 after 11 West Coast morning of July 15th, but we're excited to bring this because the brethren now have experienced this over the last week or so. We've put this out and quite a good response. We've heard from a lot of brethren and reports back that they were blessed. And so we wanted to put this online and our video channel so that you can review it and take a look at it if you haven't had a chance to. So we may break this up into a two-part series. It's quite extensive. I believe there's 62, 63 pages. And so we've put this report together to do, and we hope that you're blessed. Claim the promise of John 16:13, and he will guide us into all truth. Let us begin. All right, so as we've just spoken of, this is a new code report. It was compiled over 19 study meetings that we had with several brethren of different associations and some non-affiliated members as well that aren't with any association. But we had quite a great study. We went over them one by one, and you'll see in the report what we came up with. All right, now this is where you can find the actual study. It's ElijahMessageBlog.wordpress.com. This is the report that has the PDF. So some of you may want to pull this up and look at the PDF yourself and review each page independently and do your own due diligence. See the report and pray that you be blessed by it or understand it, that we made a comprehensive one on this report. All right. So now we're going to get back to that report. All right. Here it is. It's called the 11th Hour Message. And this is one of our blog sites. So we'll go ahead and hit this report here. Okay. So we'll go ahead and read along here. The following is our report based on 19 meetings and studies of Davidian Seventh-day Adventists comprising many different associations and also non-affiliated association DSDA around the world. It is a review of the new codes as they are called. We hope and pray this report will shed some important facts and truths on the subject matter so that the serious investigator will be in a position to weigh the evidences. And of course we have some counsel here that we provided for the brethren. Very, very applicable counsel. For instance, we must base our conclusions solely on the weight of evidence so that we may not only know all the truth, but also teach nothing but the truth. So we want to know the situation of these new codes because we want to speak the truth. And as you'll find out, unfortunately, many of us down through time teach lessons that aren't based on truth. Of course, this is the very well-known, we have many lessons to learn, many to unlearn. And that can be found on page 2. All right, so why the report? The new codes were generally accepted by Davidians since they were published by Florence Hoff, starting with volume 10, number 34, dated February of 1955. We have evidence of these codes being accepted in the early days, such as 1970 Symbolic Code. So one of the things that we wanted to bring to this report is that, that's our history, that many of the pioneers after Brother Hoff's death do show, in fact, from meetings that they believed in the codes enough to quote them in session. And you can find this in the 100% rod-only meetings and groups where they had the, their sessions and discussions, and they brought up the new codes as reference to some of their points that they wanted to bring to the table. But as we see, however, not all Davidians accepted them in total. There were some Davidians who objected to the new code, what's called private program, as they called it, going so far as to say Florence Hoff's council was heading for trouble in announcing their prophecy predictions through these new codes. And of course, we have the exhibits that can be found, and they're marked in the red highlight there at the end of the report. They predicted the council's prophecy failure in their protest letter, saying, It will be the private predictions and private program of the new code and new Carmel, not the inspired program of the rod. So we see that there's a false narrative that some of the leaders have put out about these codes protecting them, and using the argument, oh, all the old timers believed in the new codes. No, not all of them. There was a few minority amounts, I would say, that disagreed and understood that this was a private program that Florence Houghton and her counselor was launching for the support of her private prophecy of the 42 months, the Ezekiel 9 coming in a certain date. And so it was a pretty much clear issue to some of these brethren. Fast forward to the year 2002, the computer age was just coming into worldwide usage. Knowledge was to expound greatly due to the quick and easy ability to retrieve information. In that year, 2 DSDA brethren submitted a report to the Waco BRC objecting to the new codes as inspired or as part of the Golden Bowl. The report was submitted by Brother Michael Graham and Brother Lennox Sam. Now let's touch on this for a second. This, as far as we know, somebody had said that there was a prior report to this, but it's not well disseminated like this one was. This was put out in the field, and it was year 2002, and we note that Brother Michael Graham, who we're very good friends with and brothers on the message today, is one of the main authors of this. And the other party is Brother Lennox. I shouldn't even say brother. I'm sorry, brother. Brother, this guy has deceived the flock so badly with his private interpretations, with his new Elijah teachings that he promotes. But we want to say back in 2002 that he was not of this nature. He was not of this persuasion to basically announce that he's the Elijah to come. And if you go on another report on our same channel here, you'll find more about Lennox Sam. And it's very, very sad that he's deceived the flock, brethren, tremendously. So we just want to make that note that this was 2002, before he went this direction. And so at this time, him and Brother Michael Graham put together a very comprehensive report. And we'll give you the link to look at that report yourself. They compiled an extensive report showing evidence of many problems with these codes. Their report was ultimately not accepted, nor any action taken to address the issues of concern. However, this began to get the discussion going in the DSDA world field about some serious issues with these codes. Online information began to disseminate into the field. Davidians were able to investigate more of this issue. So we praise the Lord that this report brought it to the table, brought it to the forefront, that we can look at this and make our own decisions. Through the years since then, this debate has grown. Let's see. Where is this? Sorry about this, but through the years this has grown. This debate has grown throughout the world field about these new codes. Blogs, DSDA websites, Facebook, DSDA groups, DSDA sessions, Zoom meetings, other avenues have taken part in this debate. And it's certainly true that this debate has gone out well into the world field. And it's a shame that certain leaders of our big organizations, and I'm talking Waco, talking Mountaindale, don't want to engage in this debate. But we do want to give credit that Mountaindale is going to be taking this up in the session, which I believe starts July 30th of this month. So that was the main reason why we put this report out. We wanted to get this in the hands of the brethren so that particularly the Mountaindale brethren can have something to weigh the evidences, see the other side about these new code situations. So the new codes has permeated throughout the world field. Questions raised, answers given, yet no thorough, comprehensive, detailed report except the initial Graham-Sam report has been produced. I do want to say that, yes, there is a site called UPA7 that has produced a report, I believe, or several reports on these new codes. And we commend any brethren or any organization that sheds light on the fact that there's such serious issues with these new codes. I do want to say, though, however, in regard to UPA 7, they go to the outer edges and they condemn those that believe in them. And I don't think it's our position to condemn a brother. For instance, if we condemn the people that believe in the new codes, we have to condemn Brother Warren, for instance. He was a staunch believer in the new codes. I shouldn't say staunch. I mean, he did express belief in them. But that was his limited knowledge. He didn't have the extensive investigation aspect that we have today. And so I'm sure if he would have seen this report, he being a follower of the truth, he would agree that there's serious issues with these new codes. But anyway, so we have to be very careful not to condemn our brethren, even though they're of this persuasion. On the flip side, we have to be very cautious not to condemn those that don't believe in them. Now, we've heard reports from some of the leaders, particularly of Mountaindale, that they have said and reported that basically we're apostate if we don't believe in these new codes. And that's very foolish. And you'll see the reasoning why we believe that after this report. A report was needed to give a fair hearing. That's what we've done. A balanced, close-up inspection to see what is what and what does not harmonize with the VTA's message. You see, that's the main core of this message is we want to take it and this report and we want to say, well, okay, this is a supposed sermons. Now let's compare those to the actual sermons that were verified and produced and published by the prophet. So we have a way to test that, and that's how we do it. We test it with the published message from Brother Houteff. Okay, where were the meetings held? On October 23, 2021, we held the first meeting of the Zoom platform, on the Zoom platform. We came together 19 times on Sabbath over a period of 10 months. One of the brethren brought up the point that, well, you shouldn't be doing this on the Sabbath. Well, excuse me, but the word, the Bible is very clear, Spirit of Prophecy, the rod, that we are to come together and study the truth, study the word. And this is what we did on the Sabbath. So praise God that this is was a great thing. Our last meeting was on July 9th, 2022. Brother Carlisle Greer administered his Zoom account for the meetings. Because of this modern online communication, we were able to have brethren join us from across the world. The meetings usually took 2 or 2.5 hours. We were very blessed as all of them were orderly and very few had any unfortunate background disturbances. We did not have any disgraceful yelling or arguments. The brethren came together as truth seekers, rightly dividing the word of truth, as counseled in 2 Timothy 2:15. So we're doing what we're counseled, brethren. We're looking at supposed truth, and we're trying to divide it. We're going to say, well, does this make sense? Does this harmonize with the established writings of the prophet? Who took part in the meetings? Brethren from Mountaindale, Waco, Bashan, UPA, 7, Red Bluff took part. Many non-affiliated associate brethren joined as well. Early in our meetings, a brother attended who was from Waco and said that Waco did not give authorization for the meetings. True, councils from the organization did not call for our study meetings. However, the brethren did not need this approval to come together to study controverted points of the message. Due to the need to closely investigate these codes, we all came together as Bereans. So we were really baffled that this one brother, one of the leaders of Waco, came on in one of our beginning meetings. I don't know if it was meeting 1 or 2. But he did come on and made the point that, hey, you guys shouldn't be having this. Waco is not represented here. It's not authorizing these meetings and blah, blah, blah. But the point is that that's silliness. It's outright silliness. Because he's basically saying we can't do this. We shouldn't be doing this, which is foolish, brethren. We're coming together to study these doctrines. And Bereans, if they go to the councils in those times or, ask Jesus or, ask whoever, hey, can we, are we allowed to study what you said? No, you can't do it unless you get together with our council and we have to go over it with you and we have to authorize you. And oh, brother. So anyway, this was something we cleared up early on. Over the years, it seemed the contrary of these codes have only gotten bigger. Therefore, brethren of concern took the lead despite the council's not doing so, and decided the time had come for a thorough investigation, and we praise the Lord we did it. Yes, this was a great blessing. We are so happy that we did it, and we don't need no head of the councils or head leaders to tell us we can't do something. You can start your own study group wherever you are, and study any and all controversial points, and make it known, spread it out in the field. What you find. Now these were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, examining the scriptures daily whether these things were so. Acts 17:11. All right. So what did we study? Well, here's all the things we studied. You'll notice that we covered many of the new codes. Volume 10, Volume 11, Volume 12, Volume 13, and those are the specific numbers. All right, during the meeting, Brother Trevor of Bashan brought to our attention that there were codes in Volume 14. However, we decided that due to these not being widely disseminated in the field over the years, except the early Florence Houteff years of the codes, we would not go through these codes because most Davidians are not aware of them. Additionally, the widely read Blue Book produced by Brother Don Adair left out other codes that Florence Houteff, which were not placed in the book. These can be found at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. So any of the brethren, and there has been some brethren down the years, that want to review all of Florence Houteff's codes, including Volume 14, they can go down to Baylor and find them themselves. And of course, we'll get into more of this, but it's obvious why certain people picked and choose over the years. All right, the harmonious new codes. A total of 17 of 24 were noted as harmonious, with VTS published. Now, we were quite surprised in this. Before we did this report, I was of the feeling at least half of them, didn't harmonize, but I was quite amazed that 17 of 24 basically were harmonious. Now, we're not saying all 17 of the 24 didn't have any issues, but we're saying on prophecy, on teachings, they pretty much matched up with the Brother Houteff published message. And we'll also say a comment here that Florence Houteff was called out after a few of the codes had been sent out by one of the brothers in the council meeting, and saying, well, we understand you're bringing these out, but we have no proof that Brother Houteff said these things. Well, Sister Houteff took offense to that, and so after that, she started giving the sermon so-called dates of where he went and where he said it. So anyway, however, it is noted that these harmonious codes have some missing pages from the codes sent out by Florence Houteff and her council, and you can see that on page 17. Baylor University has them, yet certain individuals have decided they are not to be published. So we want to emphasize that, and we'll go over this in the report, but brethren, we have actually given a pipe to two individuals, Brother Don Adair and Florence Houteff. That's who we've given pipes to. Why do we say that? Because we've allowed them to disseminate, to interpret, to edit, to actually add and subtract whatever they felt was right to put into the golden bowl. That's what we have done, admitted or not. So this is sad, brethren. This fact alone is sad, that we stand before God as Davidian Seventh-day Adventists and say, yes, Lord, we let them have a pipe because it's part of the message and we wanted to see all. No, brethren, we have let Florence Houteff and Don Adair have a pipe. And Zechariah 4 teaches us how many pipes? 2. So we have to knock this off and throw out extra pipes. And how do we do that? Well, we'll discover that as we go. All right. Volume 10, number 3-4. Okay, so This code was viewed and found to have largely funeral information on Brother Hotto's funeral. Some motivational statements as well as inspired quotes were made as well. However, some brethren have concerns about the election of Florence Hotto as VP. This began a Davidian precedent that some objected to, electing a VP without a serving president at the helm. You know, this was brought up, and there was some concern about this. However, this is a practice that's practiced among some of the associations, so it's really a kind of a more how readest thou issue. So that was what we found on that. However, this accepted practice with some of the organizations, no contradictions of prophecy or doctrines were found. Volume 10, number 11, a brother noted that on page 34, where Florence Hotto spoke of the possibility that Brother Hotto's death may have fulfilled Zechariah 13, 6, 7, he said that this was wrong, and this is how some doctrines get started with their ideas, but it's noteworthy to say that she said if. So this cannot be a certain prophecy's declaration on her part, except for this concern, no contradictions and prophecies of doctrine were found. And the same with 6. We didn't find any contradictions and was in harmony. And there's 7. This code dealt with Brother Hoff answering elder who accused him of not teaching the message right. This code was found to be in harmony with Brother Hotto's message, providing historical information on why VTF proclaimed the message as it did. All right, volume 11, number 2, not found contradictory. Same with 11.4. 11.6, 11.12, 12.1. Although no outright contradictions were found, this could be problematic. The issue of Assyrian Confederacy is taken up in this code, which is controversial among some DSDA. We will take up more on this issue later in the report. 12.4, not noted. 12.5, this code was harmonious was the message, and further support the idea of Jacob's time of trouble coming as occurring while traveling on his way home, showing it as agreement with our fundamental beliefs in Jacob's time of trouble after Ezekiel 9 and while 144 traveling home to the kingdom and leaving their Gentile nations. So it's ironic that those that say, oh, you know, Jacob's time of trouble is before Ezekiel 9. It cannot be. Well, their own new codes that they often quote exposes them. If you'll go to volume 12, number 5, their own new codes, which they're staunch believers in, show clearly it's on its way home. Once they leave the Gentile nations, read that, brethren. It's very clear. And so we had a debate recently on Mountaindale Study in the morning, and one sister was saying, well, it's not possible to have it after Ezekiel 9. And she quoted volume 12, number 5, and we said, okay, let's open up this volume 12, number 5. And we looked at it, and one of the brethren, exposed her and said, well, listen, it says we have to leave the Gentile nations, and that's when the Jacob's time of trouble comes. And of course, she was wallowing around with that, trying to gaslight us. It's not really meaning that, So it's really amazing, brother. All right, so let's go down here. 12, number 6 and 7, not noted. Number 8 and 9, this code was not noted for any contradiction. It was found in harmony. However, the issue of 3 harvests, as mentioned in this code, caused some concern among the brethren. But this appears more of a how readest thou issue than clear cut. All right, number 13, 5, and 6. Nothing of controversy. These are the well-known Sabbath-related topics. Same with 7, 8. Same with 9. Same with 11, 12. Now, I do want to make a comment about this, brethren, and I'm not purporting that we make the new codes part of the Golden Bowl. And when I say that, I mean we shouldn't be quoting them in reports. We shouldn't be quoting them as truth for teaching a brother a certain subject of the message and so forth. But when we read these codes about the Sabbath, they are quite enlightening. And I want to say that because he goes into the different aspects of controversy with the Sabbath. So we found this enlightening and a blessing. So that's noteworthy to make a comment about. Okay, the controversial issues. All right, there were 7 as contradictory and not harmonious. In this section, we'll talk about Florence actions in regards to these new codes. We'll also go over the 7 new codes which we found problematic and contradictory to the published message of Brother Houteff. Including a report, we'll finish with a summary of our findings. All right, so Florence Houteff. As many know, Florence played a key role in the compilation, editing, disseminating, and publishing of these codes. Transcripts have been preserved that show editing, adding, subtracting to these codes. And we have a great example in number 4. We'll get down to that later. It is important to note that unlike the codes prior to Victor's death, the new codes were never edited or authorized to be published by the prophet. This is very key, brethren, because this is at the heart of the issue. Brother Houteff never, even though they were so-called found in the files and storage areas from Sister Houteff, they were never put out into the field by the prophet. The general understanding is that there were unpublished sermons, addresses, and other prophet writings kept in the files or storage that Florence decided, perhaps as counsel as well, her counsel, to retrieve and publish after Victor's death. So we all know that story. Initially, it appeared that the reasons for the compilation of the codes after his death was to provide historical notes as well as notes of interest she and her counsel found were beneficial and needed. See, that's what we talked about before. From the get-go, it appeared that she just wanted to provide, historical readings and so forth. But, however, starting in volume 11, number 2, Florence let known the reason for the codes, as she said. Now, here's a very important part. These sermons will be judiciously selected on the basis of their current application. To what? To our present needs. From the most complete collection of existing notes on his addresses since 1929, these discourses should prove just as encouraging and helpful, and perhaps even more timely in view of the closing phase of the work for the church than they were when they were delivered. So she's setting us up here to understand that she's picking and choosing what's going to help for the present needs of the people. She's taken upon her own ideas, her own thought processes, that this is what we need to bring out. Not that, but this, because she wants to put up an agenda, brethren. And we'll see clearly that that agenda was the 42-month prophecy. Now, here's the first striking thing that we note on this report. Sister Bonnie sent this in, and this is a copy of a TG, and it will notice the date, copyright 1956 reprint. Notice who's the author or the compiler, Mrs. V.T. Houteff. Now, this is Sister Bonnie who sent this, and she writes in here a terrible sin. She points to it, changed from Brother Houteff's TG. So she had tried to send this out in the field. She got caught and it was never widely disseminated, but she did have a copy of that from the old days. And it just shows the extent that Sister Houteff was willing to tamper with the message, willing to countermand the message, willing to, I dare say, put her pipe into the bowl, and blatantly so. All right. Florence attempt to plagiarize. We'd like to give thanks to Sister Bonnie Smith, age 91, and pray for her, brethren. She's getting very old, but the Lord's still, having her with us, and we praise Him for that. And one of the original Mount Carmel residents who knew Brother Houteff for many years while on the camp. That's right. She came on the camp, I believe, about the age of eight or so. Back in the beginning, 1935, I believe it was. And so the TG of the previous page was forwarded to us by her, and we appreciate that. You will notice that it shows me, this is V.T. Houteff as the author. Apparently she attempted to send a TG out to the DSDA field showing herself as author. Fortunately, the brethren caught this attempt prior to it being sent out. Sister Bonnie's notes are there as well. This shows the extent that Florence Hoddle was willing to countermand the message and gives proof she was capable and willing to tamper with Brother Hoddle's writings. This alone provides evidence that new codes must be carefully inspected. So we see clearly that what else evidence do you need to show that she's willing to tamper? So if this is the case, what else could she have done? And we'll go over that. It is also noted that Florence and her counsel decided upon their own discretion to pull out from the files or storage what they thought is appropriate to meet the current needs. The prophet, we should remember, never decided that the unpublished works were to be published in writing to, quote, meet the needs of DSDA while he was alive. So she's saying that these were needed to be pulled out to meet the needs. Brother Hoddle had it there for years, some of them decades in that storage. He never felt that it was to meet the needs. So it's solely her and her counsel's ideas. Neither was there any authorization from him as such, unlike Sister White, this is important, who gave authorization upon her death that her unpublished writings could be published if the trustees decided. We have evidence of that in Exhibit 5. Okay, it should also be noted that Florence Hoddle published new codes during her tenure as vice president, which has not been generally disseminated in the DSDA field today. The list is as follows. So when we understand that Florence Hoddle had a responsibility, so she thought in those days, to produce these codes for the present needs, why have we left these out, brethren, for all these years? They were published right there with the other codes. You know why? It's because the facts are that many of them are filled with error. And Florence Hoddle's editions, possibly the councils as well. Several brethren have went through them at Baylor University over the years, where they are stored. We have the link for where they're stored in Exhibit 6. So this is very troubling because who makes this decision? And we'll go into that. This raises an important question. Who decided which of these new codes were to be disseminated after Sister Florence Hoddle's time? So that's the question we ask. Who did God authorize to give this decision to that we know of? Not one soul, brethren. Not one soul was authorized by God to publish these things. It was the council, private people, private constructors, Florence Hoddle and Don Adair. We dare say these new codes lay at their feet, brethren. And we got to recognize this. It's sad that many brethren don't put two and two together. All right, so let's talk about Don Adair's role in the new codes. As Davidians, we're well familiar with the Blue Book, the symbolic code compilation arranged by Don Adair. The book was copyrighted in 1992 by Adair Salem Association and published, available to be purchased by the DSDA field. He copied word for word all of Brother Hoddle's published codes from Volume 1, Number 1, July 1934, to Volume 10, Number 2, December 1954. However, he decided to pick and choose what he felt was appropriate to publish concerning the new codes. This is important information because that is why today we Davidians concern ourselves mostly with certain new codes published in the Blue Book. In other words, Don Adair apparently was the DSD authority to say what and what should not be studied from the new codes. Very troubling, brother. For example, Adair's standard line throughout the Blue Book was that it contained areas of new codes, pages, that were omitted based on the following, because they contained no information about the sale of Mount Carmel or of the hunting campaign. So this is troubling, brethren. He thought, well, I don't think this is appropriate. I don't like it. I'm just going to put this standard disclaimer in there. Okay, so you go to the new book and you see this often put, and we'll go more into that to show you evidence here. All right, let's take a look at evidence. All right, for example, Volume 10, Number 5. You see this? All right, courage of Davidians in their field registers high. There's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 pages. Those are pages. Those numbers there. And he decided, oh, not good enough for the message. I'm not putting it in here. So this is ridiculous, brethren. And so This was all standard excuses. Let's go down to number 6. All right. What shall be that which shall be in the latter days? Page 3 is eliminated. Answers to your questions. Page 4 is eliminated. Such suggestion, the mailbag, all these things Adair made as a judge, a decision maker for us on what to study and what not to study. All right. In his blue codes, you'll find that number 7 has 12 pages omitted that he crossed out. Volume 11, number 2, 22 pages omitted. Number 11, 8, 14, 11, 12, 7. Volume 12, number 1, 4 pages. The above codes all have numerous pages omitted with the standard excuse because they contain no information about the sale of Mount Carmel or the hunting campaign. However, we must conclude that Don Adair has decided for Davidians what shall and what shall not be added to the Shepherd's Rod message from these new codes. This fact alone begs the question. So we brought up a very good question here. How can we justify before God giving a fellow brother such power to dictate what is to be and what is not to be, including this most important message? So we have to ask this question. Are we going to be able to justify that in front of God? Say, I believe that we should have gave him a pipe, Lord. He was a smart man. We have to trust his decisions, and this is the way it's been accepted down through the years. This is foolishness, brethren. Foolishness. So we need to wake up to that. The aforementioned evidences concerning Adair show clear proof, whether admitted or not, that these new codes have been compromised. This is key, brethren. We have a big compromised issue here with these new codes. These are facts we must consider on our own personal decision to add or not add these codes to the Golden Bowl. It should be noted that some associations have added some of the Blue Book missing pages to their websites. However, they have also omitted others as well. In short, some of the new codes are not complete nor disseminated in their full unedited versions. Again, showing we as brethren have taken upon ourselves to judge the message as to what is worthy to publish and what is not, unlike the codes edited published by the prophet. Let us remember there are only 2 pipes that bring the oil into the golden bowl. So we want to make sure that that is noted, that there's just 2 pipes, brethren. There's not 4. We never can justify before the Lord another person having a pipe that brings oil into the message. And this is what into the bowl is precious. It's the golden bowl from the Lord. And Sister White and Brother Hadaf are the 2 pipes, as we know clearly from the message. And you try to see these people like Lennox Sam bring his pipe in. Most all of us reject that, except these African brethren that haven't studied for themselves. There's a sprinkle of other ones across the United States, but those that know the message first and learn the message before they go over to listen to somebody like Lennox Sam, they know he's a pipe's trying to stick it in there. He's trying to stick his own pipe into the bowl, brethren. Well, this is what Don Adair and Florence Hadaf did, yet we accept them. Most of us don't accept Lennox Sam, but we accept Adair and Florence Hadaf. This is something we have to wake up to, and we have to know that we can't do that. And so this will help in your decision to make whether they should be part of the Golden Bowl or not. So we're going to conclude here. We went over the beginning part of this study. So like I said, we're going to have part 2, maybe part 3, to discuss these new codes reports. But we wanted to get that out into the field now and let you know that they're ready and ready to be studied. So thank you again, brethren, for listening. And until next time, may the Lord continue to guide you into all truth. Amen.